One. Here we go. Welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner Classic, Less Known Classics. This is episode number 2664 and Doubleshot 2558. I got two Marvel limited series. First one I'm discussing is the first of two remaining series discussed for this character, that being Moon Knight. This is basically talking about the Resurrection War miniseries written by one of his co-creators, Doug Moak. Yes. If you're curious, when did this series come out? In January 1980. He probably came with here right after he was very stupidly fired by Fax by DC Comics. So he came back to Marvel Comics to do this miniseries. Mostly put in the case of miniseries. It's 4 issues. It's drawn by Tommy Edwards. I do like the colors of this miniseries, but I'm not a fan of the art style. Mostly put, it's basically Moon Knight come back to life. It's kind of back to status quo. He's here. Frenchie. The Stained Scarlet is here too. He also fights Black Spectre. It's basically like a typical Black Knight book, Moon Knight book. And surprisingly, it's only 4 issues. Yeah, it's really short. It's surprising the fact the Marvel did this, and they only did this like just not even a couple years after they axed the marks with their Moon Knight series. So they bring this book back, and my guess the book was so successful they did a follow-up one. But there's not really a lot to say about this one, but it's a standard Moon Knight series. This probably is I think this also was the first time Doug ever wrote the book since the mid-'80s. So this was his return after 10 years, which I think he does a great job with this. But I'm going to give this miniseries 8/9 out of 10. Next up is a very strange miniseries. That being Cage. Yes, Cage. And those of you curious, was this particular miniseries got kind of trade? Yeah, Cage is a miniseries for Luke Cage, released in, I believe it was 2002. Let's see if I can here. Here we go. So, this was collected in Marvel Max Cage. Yep. Yes. Now, like I mentioned, this book was released in 2002. They pretty much launched this book I think it was just after the Heroes for Hire book just ended. Now, is this miniseries like part of Marvel continuity? It is. But because Marvel Max, there's nudity and there's swearing. Well, okay, it says here it's not actually 616 Luke Cage, but you could say definitely that this book does debut something new for Luke Cage. Yes. That being the fact he has a goatee in this miniseries. Yep, something he would actually keep in present day. Yep. And here's the slight read. Now, the book is written by Brian Azzarello. You're thinking me. Brian Azzarello. The guy behind books like Joker, Lex Luthor. Yeah, he did a Luke Cage book. And you might think it's Lee Majima doing the artwork. No, it's Richard Corbin. The guy's okay. It does start a trend for Luke Cage, this book, where that Luke Cage no longer wears superhero costume. Nope. Yeah, that has stopped. The fact he wears normal street clothes now. Yeah, he has his pants unbuttoned, but that's just basically the style of the book. But it does debut another thing. His goatee. Something he still has this very day. Though if you're curious, does he still have hair? He does. But yeah, this is a redesign for Luke Cage right after, I think they launched, like I mentioned, they just launched this book just after the Heroes for Hire book had just, I think they had just wrapped up. Yes, I believe so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had just wrapped up the Heroes for Hire book. The first line of the book, that is. Yes, I think this book came out not long after that. Let me double check to be sure. Let's see. Actually, no, he did previously appear in the Iron Fist book, Iron Fist Wolverine, which came out in 2000. There was the Marvel Knights book, which was 01. So this actually was the first appearance since the Marvel Knights book. This is in between Marvel Knights and... Actually, no. This book came out just after the first issue of Alias. So it's like, yeah, let's have Luke Cage appear in the first two issues of Alias. Oh yeah, and let's have in the first issue where he has a one-night stand with Jessica Jones, which at the end of the book reveals that he got her pregnant. Yep. So, you could say Alias kind of was the name of this thing, but my guess is Marvel felt as though Luke Cage fit the continuity of Marvel Max. But here's the thing. He was all, by the time this book was wrapping up, by this book was only 5 issues, he was later appearing as a recurring character in Daredevil. Well, Bendis is Daredevil. Yep. Yeah. And despite the whole thing of like the Cage thing, the book is very exploitive per se. It is. It is very exploitive when it comes to Luke Cage. There's lots of nudity. The series is notorious for its nudity. If anybody has ever read this book, they would know, yes, there is tons of nudity in this book. There is like every single issue has a woman depicted butt naked. Yeah. Yep. That's indeed true. Yeah, depicted being with no clothes on. And a lot of the time, Luke Cage would sleep with a bunch of random women in the book. Yeah, that's kind of basically what he did here. While fighting also a version of Tombstone. That's pretty much not much else here, per se. No, not really. Though this was his first solo book since Cage Volume 1. Which that ended in 1993. This is the first time in 9 years. And after this book, he would not have a solo book again, a mini-series, mind you, until 8 years later, which I'll talk about that another time. But that one's not 5 issues, that is 3. You're thinking, what? Well, you'll find out when I get to talk about this book. Because it's quite interesting, this one. So in the case of Luke Cage, with this one talked about here, we have roughly about 2 more books left. Actually, 3. You have the Cage Expedition by George Sikorsky. You also have Luke Cage Noir, and New Avengers Luke Cage. But of 3 books, the very next book I'm going to discuss is going to be I'm going to discuss I'm going to do Luke Cage Noir. Purely because the fact it was the very next book that he had. I figure, why not? Yeah, I'll discuss that miniseries next, but that'll be out of continuity and part of the Marvel Noir universe, which I like Marvel Noir. It's a shame that a lot of the line wasn't as successful. It's like the only books were successful were X-Men, Spider-Man. Spider-Man, they still do miniseries for him compared to anybody else. But what do I give Cage by Brian Azzarello? I'm going to give the book roughly 8-9 out of 10. I would only recommend this book purely to people who are fans of Brian Azzarello and people who are fans of Luke Cage, and also people who like the Marvel Max imprint. There's a good bit of violence in here. Also, Luke Cage is very beefy. Yep. He also, a lot of the book wears a headset, a lot of the miniseries, and wears glasses. The glasses thing, the headset will not appear again after this, But the glasses thing, him wearing sunglasses, that would appear in Daredevil. Yes. But some might be thinking, when was the first Luke Cage bald? Was an alias? Well, for some reason, this is quite weird. In this book, he does have hair. Now, you might be thinking, does he have hair in Alias? He does. I would probably say him losing hair probably happened in Daredevil. That's probably when that happened. But you could say this book gives him a slight redesign. Kind of anyways. For the most part. Yep. But yeah, that's particularly a particular view. Next up is going to be, well, my show, Magic and Muscles, okay? So please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share notifications, and do not hit the dislike button. Next video. Bye.